What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name is Steven Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, Will?
Steve, doing well. It's been, a couple weeks here since our last podcast, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks. We had the
2 weeks.
our draft review.
That's what it was, yeah. So a few weeks even since our last mock draft, I guess it is.
Yeah, and those were the rookie mocks.
Yeah.
We haven't done a real mock since like the March, we don't know what ADPs are going to look like kind of one. Yeah.
First one of like the true mock season.
Yeah, this is the first real one. Yeah.
Into.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. I was telling you a little bit about certain, in the market for searching for a home. So that's been going on for me, but didn't also mention that I have something in common with a lot of these fantasy players that we draft here and are going crazy over all season. I pulled my hamstring the other weekend.
Oh, really?
I tell you, I'm never going to complain about a player with a pulled hamstring again. It is the worst.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I don't think I've known anyone that's actually done that before.
Yeah. I was actually water skiing, and as I got up for like the fourth kind of run at it, as I was getting up, both of my legs kind of popped out like a split. Both of the water skis popped out, and I felt my right hamstring. Luckily, I had one of my friends is a PT, so she was able to have me do a few stretches to see if it was torn, and I passed both of those tests, so definitely not
good.
torn hamstring, which is a good one. But it is likely a pull, and unfortunately, they can range from like a couple weeks to like 6 weeks. And that's why I think we see it with these players. You just don't know how long it's going to last. They can linger if you come back too soon. So it's really interesting that I'm kind of going through it here and learning what they have to go through. I'm sure, it's a little easier when you're a professional athlete. That's your job. Like, you don't have to go do X, Y, and Z throughout the day. You can literally just rehab or just stay off your leg or do exactly what you need, ice at the right regiments. But yeah, it is an absolute pain. It's like not super sore. It's tight and a little bit sore, but you have to have it compressed all the time. You got to be icing it a lot. And then you just really have to like only walk and walk slow. So like no exercise, no running. It's just... it's just more of an inconvenience than anything that apparently lingers for a while.
I will take you off my draft board. I'm not going to play around with that.
Definitely not a high pick here, as it looks like you and I both have for today's mock draft.
Yeah, I ended up with the 101. That'll be interesting. And you and the 104.
104 is right behind you. We'll be able to steal each other's players.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
So we'll see how it goes. I was kind of hoping for a turn, but I wanted the other turn. So kind of the opposite of what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see how it goes. Again, I'm not sure how accurate the ADPs were when we did one back in March, April. So it'll be good to see where the ADPs fall, what running back values are, what tight end landscape's looking like, the quarterbacks, who can we wait on. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Usually, when we're in here doing mock drafts, I've got a bunch of color all over my board here. I've got the guys starred here on Sleeper, and queued up and all. It's a fresh start. I have, I think we just kind of were winging it there on the last one because that was in March, and this is the first one I'll be doing, and I'm sure this will kind of get me in the rhythm of doing them just here and there in the free time and get into it. But this will be my first one here, so I don't have any, unless I can think of them throughout the draft, no like sleepers, no my guys or anything just yet.
Yeah, same. We'll see. We'll let the ADPs determine it, and this is kind of, like you said, just the beginning, and then we'll start forming strategies now, I guess. So
yeah, and then I know you have a trip coming up here, so TBD. But the idea here going forward through the draft season itself will be just about every week we'll be doing mock drafts. So we'll see as we come up in the next few weeks, but we should be able to finagle it to have still at least one every week coming up.
Yeah, do some pre-recording.
Yeah,
you could do that with mocks. Not with news,
exactly.
But mocks, yeah.
A little bit easier.
Yeah, just a tad bit. Cool. So, you ready to get the ball rolling?
Yeah, let's get it started here. I'm a little. I don't really know what I'm going to do here at four. There's a couple of guys that are interesting.
Yeah. Yeah,
You got an easy one.
I got an easy one. You not so much. But
Not an
yeah,
enviable position.
we can get going. You need to start it. A little different on our end with you being the captain on this one.
Captain, I like that sound. We should do this more often.
Might have to. We'll see.
All right, so Steve is on the board, 10 minutes on the clock, and this is a tough one, the 101.
Yeah, I mean, I do. Part of me wants to take CMC.
Yeah, it's
Because
just because it's been how many years in a row that's just been the lock in easy pick.
Yeah, I like bobbing when everyone else is weaving. When people were taking Barkley, I was taking CMC. When CMC was taking, I think I went Barkley. That didn't work. Near CMC, to be fair. And now it feels like, okay, Jonathan Taylor's the smash guy, and he just probably won't be. They flip flop back and forth.
I like the offense. I mean, Matt Ryan is definitely an upgrade from Carson.
Big time.
I mean, maybe he doesn't have, the pure ceiling. So that's what, 1 or 2 games. But that pure ceiling game probably doesn't help Jonathan Taylor in that game. Maybe he gets a couple catches, but that's a, 4-touchdown, 300-yard game. And I don't even know if we saw too many of them last year. But I think Matt Ryan, just from a game management standpoint, he's going to get everyone involved, and he should just overall make the offense function better, which is hopefully going to have more opportunities for JT in the red zone.
Yep, and that's pretty much it. I mean, at the end of the day, I can definitely see, someone like CMC or Derrick Henry or, Eckler, a bunch of people ending up as one over Taylor, but his offense is solid. And that's really the big difference maker. So I'm just going to lock him in. Not a big surprise to anyone. Cooper Kupp. Wow. Cooper Kupp going 102, and then Justin Jefferson 103.
Let me just double check. I don't think the settings are anything special, but it is full PPR, so maybe that's why they're looking to grab some of these receivers. Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I've seen the fantasy football I was talking about taking Kupp, 101 if that's what you wanted to do. So
yeah,
it's not crazy. Jefferson's he's obviously very good. It's just kind of surprising to see.
Yeah, well, it throws me for a loop a little bit. I was not going to take Henry, so I was hoping that he would have went there. He's someone, the whole offense I want to stay away from, especially in redraft this year. I mean, Henry's probably still going to be good. Still has the pure upside of, being that 101. But I think the floor is just lower than just about, everyone we're going to see in the next, roundish, maybe round and a half, especially the running backs. So just putting CMC aside for a minute, because he's going to be basically the compared to most of the guys. 4 guys I was thinking about here with the idea that McCaffrey and Henry go, looking at Eckler, Cook, Harris, and Mixon. And I think there's an argument that could be made for most of them. I think Eckler, especially in full PPR, you can make a huge argument for him.
I think he would have been my pick.
He's in a traditional probably was, yeah.
CMC, Henry goes, it'd probably be Eckler.
It would be Eckler, right? And let's say he goes at 3, then it's Cook, Harris, and Mixon, and I love Harris, especially in any type of dynasty or keeper league. He's really a no-brainer. He's a little older, but still a little older as he came out for rookie, but still a good young running back and rookie quarterback. We'll see if he gets some checkdowns. I don't know if he can get more checkdowns than he got his rookie year, but he's good. Mixon is really intriguing to me, though. I think they've done everything possible to make the offensive line better, and the offensive line was really bad as it was, so they didn't have to do too much to really improve it. But that offense is still going to be really good. So Mixon is intriguing. I think he has top 6, top 8 upside in drafts here, and if the offense is humming and it just so happens that they punch it in through the ground not more often, but more than he's going to be projected for, you could see him in the top 5. I could see with pure upside, I could see him as one of the few guys that has that 101 potential. So I think Mixon is someone that I'll probably be maybe a little higher on than most. Dalvin Cook also right there. He's kind of tried and true. It's, more you're just worried about the overall injury concern, but the last 3 years, 13 games last year, 14 and 14. So I think his first year or two with the injury concerns, we've kind of spelled that a little bit as he's been pretty consistent. Mixon has his own injury concerns as well, but last year 16, 2 years ago 16. So at this point, maybe we're putting 2020 in the rear view as well. But yeah, I think it's just, Eckler is just on a phenomenal offense. Looks to be pretty much the lead dog. I don't think there's really a ton of competition behind him or anything that you're scared of. So, he would be the pick here, but with McCaffrey still on the board, I almost don't want to take McCaffrey because I don't think he would be here at 4, right? I almost want to try to build a team. I mean, what do you think? Do you think there's ever any opportunity that he's ever available at 4?
I do. And I was actually going to say something like I can see this situation playing out because you're coming off back-to-back years of McCaffrey getting hurt. You have an unknown quarterback situation. You have a coach that could be fired in the middle of the season. Like I could see wanting to avoid McCaffrey. And then you kind of spelled it out for Derrick Henry. Like that whole team got downgraded. He's also coming off an injury, not on the right side of the age spectrum. Not that he's old, but he's not in the right area. So I can see avoiding
he's on
him
a
too.
lot of carries.
Yeah, he has. So I can see avoiding both of those. Now, do I think it's going to happen in a great regular fashion? Probably not. But I could see this popping up for sure. Yeah. Now, in your position, as the first mock of the year, I probably would go Eckler and take your quote unquote reasonable take, just so you have a good baseline for, establishing strategies for mocks moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm looking, and who knows, maybe that ends up just pushing McCaffrey down, and we're single-handedly ruining his ADP by letting him fall more in this draft. But yeah, I mean, it would be tough. I think it would be a decision. Like there would be a camp that just says, "What are you doing? You took 4 minutes to talk about these other running backs. McCaffrey's there. Just lock it in." And then they would have the other extreme that looks at the last 2 years and. He has not been healthy. He's played 3 games in 2020, 7 games in 2021. Now he's been the model of health before that. 17, 18, 19, he played in 16 games. And he was, that elite level guy, but the last 2 years he wasn't. So it would be a conversation. I mean, push comes to shove. I don't know that I could pass on McCaffrey there, but for just kind of building a team purposes and figuring out what would be there at 4, I think Eckler's much more available. So I'm going to go Eckler here. McCaffrey's definitely in consideration. And I think, Mixon and Cook are close, but Mixon probably would be my next guy as well. So if it went something like McCaffrey, Henry, and CMC, or McCaffrey, Eckler and CMC, let's say, I would not be, not at this stage right now, I would consider Mixon here in the top 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Definitely. And that's part of the reason why I like kind of being in that 6, 7, 8 spot. It's because you can grab him.
There's a lot of guys. And starts a running back run here. So after I take Eckler, McCaffrey goes, as you would imagine, at 5. Dalvin Cook at 6. Derrick Henry at 7. Najee Harris at 8. So a little bit of a run on the running backs we talked about. Jamar Chase at 9, Devontae Adams at 10, there's Joe Mixon at 11, and I believe he was ranked at 11, so doesn't, my rankings have him a little higher, but he definitely, went to where the ADP would have put him. Next, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Swift, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce go at 2 and 3 of the second round there, so interesting to see some tight ends going early second. I know we had a couple years where Kelce was sneaking into the first, but that's pretty early for 2 tight ends. What do you think there?
Yeah, agreed. Usually it was, Kelce in the back end of the first and then Kittle in the middle of the second or late second. Now it's bumping up, and I don't know if this because, people's strategies are shifting and like you have to grab one of the top, 3 tight ends, 4 tight ends. Depends who you put in that pool. Like Waller, if memory serves, wasn't great last year for fantasy, and then has Adams to contend with this year. It's been a couple years since Kittle was an elite guy, and I believe he's banged up already. So it depends who you put in that pool. I'm sure some would argue it's just Kelce and Andrews. So I'm sure that's what's pushing up the ADP. I would think.
Yeah, you'd think. But it's interesting to see them going earlier. We'll see, in future drafts where they end up. CeeDee Lamb goes 4, Tyreek 5, Alvin Kamara 6, Josh Allen, first quarterback off the board. And to no surprise, Josh Allen. I mean, after last year, you could probably still make the case him or Mahomes, but Allen seems to have the more well rounded team and weapons overall. And then Nick Chubb goes next here at 208, so it gets to me. So coming up to me, I've got Saquon Barkley, running back wise. Saquon Barkley, Javonte Williams, Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott. A couple guys, a little bit of a drop off there. So I think for me, if I'm looking running back, I haven't even looked at the other positions yet. Javonte Williams sticks out as the guy for me. I think the return of Melvin Gordon is almost more of a blessing for anyone that wants to draft him ADP wise. I think he is still, maybe it's a 1A, 1B to start, but he's just so talented. And while they may pass the ball more, I think they're going to be overall more successful with Russell Wilson there. So Javonte Williams is probably going to be the pick, but I do want to take a gander at some of these other positions as I haven't. Saquon's interesting. I think he looks to be healthier, and we'll see. They finally had a nice regime change, but he's kind of in that CMC camp where he got to prove it type of thing. He's had a couple of injured years. He played 13 games last year, so played most of the games, but finished 30th in PPR. You're not 30th at the running back position, that is, in PPR. You're not going to be too thrilled about that. So he's someone that, here you consider him absolutely at the end of the second round, especially to pair with an Austin Eckler. But I think just the upside of Jonte Williams with the safety I already have in Eckler is hard to pass up. Quarterbacks, not really consideration here, as we talked about, all of them there, but Josh Allen. Tight ends, you could make the argument Kyle Pitts. I do think he's going to have a good year, but I don't know I could take him over some of the running backs that are there. And then if we're looking at wide receiver, we've got Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans. We've got Keenan Allen, T. Higgins, Deontay Johnson. So some interesting options. I don't think anyone sticks out. Maybe Mike Evans, I guess, probably the most. But for me, it's going to be taking Javonte Williams here. Anybody you hope falls to you with just a couple picks to you till you're up?
Aaron Jones would be my guy. In fact, I'm considering going back-to-back running backs and just seeing, what kind of wide receiver grouping I could put together if I start with 3 running backs on the turn. It's kind of scary, but I might do it just to play around and see what happens.
Yeah, there's definitely someone I'm interested in as well. So we'll see what happens, the picks around us and your picks and how that affects. I'll let you know what I was thinking depending on what's available there. But I'll be taking Javonte Williams here. Javonte goes, then goes Deebo and Saquon Barkley to you. So you fished your wish.
Yeah, I did. And man, I'm scared to do it because I'm really curious what the wide receiver grouping is going to look like. But Aaron Jones to me is just a smash, especially here. I would take Aaron Jones before Swift and that back of the first kind of area. There's just
the offense is back. There's no weapons. So is it going to be more check down? Are they going to try to run the ball more? We don't know. There's definitely downside, I think, with maybe AJ Dillon's still there. Maybe AJ comes in, it becomes more of a split backfield. But yeah, I definitely know what you mean. It's hard to pass him up there, and he was in consideration. If Javonte wasn't there, it was probably him or Saquon, and I probably would have leaned to him. I think is a little safer, or maybe just go receiver. So I don't fault you there for looking at him.
Yeah, so I'm just going to lock him in. And the other one that I want, it's between Zeke and Fournette, and I think it's going to be Fournette for me. As much as I still don't like him long term, I've always said on the pod, I think he's somebody that's going to disappear one day. And you saw it this offseason where he's a free agent and didn't sign anywhere. Was looking, met with New England. That's not going to be a good situation. So I still hold there. No, so I still hold that position of after this year and Tom Brady retires, maybe he's probably just gone. irrelevant. But for this year, Ronald Jones is gone. It's kind of the last dance kind of a deal,
Yeah.
seemingly. So, there's no reason not to ride him into the ground, I guess. So I feel like he's safer. I think, Zeke probably has better upside, but Pollard could be taking away, snaps, pass catching. Like Pollard could do some damage where I just don't see that happening to Fournette. So we'll see. I'm comfortable with either of them. It's just waiting, 24 picks or whatever to start grabbing wide receivers. And I'm
Yeah, it's
also,
risky. I'm
I'm
in the
locking,
same boat, trying to figure out what I want to do with this third pick as well, having two running backs. So far we are thinking the same way.
and then on the tight end scale, I'm forced definitely to wait. You could still grab a Pitts, a Kittle, Waller, Hawkinson if you put him in that tier. I'm probably looking at maybe like that Goddard tier. I don't know if anybody really wants that. But we'll see. We'll play the game and see what happens. Pitts will not be available to you. He went with the 302, and then AJ Brown went right after that. I'm sure you were eyeing him to some degree. So you are on the clock, my friend.
Yeah, AJ, if I was going receiver, it would be him or Evans. And I think he's got more upside because it's all really tied to Jalen Hurts in the offense. I think they could have a lethal receiver core because I do think Devontae Smith is really going to step up this year. He showed it, flashed last year. They did everything they could to make sure he broke Deshaun Jackson's record in the kind of rookie record in the last season or last game of the season. And he looked like he had it. It's something that maybe the rest of the league doesn't see. But as an Eagles fan, taking a couple receivers early and multiple years in a row, it just looks different. You could tell here already in year one, different than Rager, different than J Job, even than Aguilar. Aguilar flashed, but he looked good, but not elite. Devontae Smith looked different, and I think by comparison you could see it, and it's going to have a lot of coverage. Looking at the corner too a lot. So I think both he and AJ Brown are going to have good years. It's all going to depend on the passing volume, right? Do they cannibalize each other a bit? But it's a little riskier there, whereas Mike Evans, I think, is a lot safer. So for me, it's down to Mike Evans or Zeke. Zeke was the one I was hoping would get back to me. And as you mentioned, do you go with that third running back and lock it in? I think people are down on Zeke, and I was for a bit, but I've turned around. I just think they need weapons on the offense. Losing Amari Cooper, got some injuries at the receiving option. Going into the year, who's the wide receiver too, right? You have Gallup coming off the injury. You have James Washington just signing there, and then the rookie. So it's not a guaranteed that someone's going to be there. It's probably not Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz is probably your number two receiving option. So I think they're going to rely on the run more, and I think Zeke still has a little left in the tank. He's only 26. I know he came in early, right? He's got a ton of carries under his belt. So that's, overall tough to see, getting 300 carries. It looks like 3 times already, but he's been over 240 or more every other. So he's got a lot of mileage on him, but getting Zeke, it just would be nice. So I'm really torn because I think there's a drop off there, and then there's also a drop off at running back. So for me, I'm looking, do I go Mike Evans and then, next round have an opportunity at like a Jacobs, Dobbins, Brees Hall, Travis Etienne as a third running back? Or do I take Zeke and then look at my first receiver being McLaurin, Metcalf, DJ Moore, Amari Cooper? I think that's a little scarier, especially just the position, locking it down. So I'm going to zig while you zag there, take the positional flexibility, and going to go with Mike Evans here. So lock Mike Evans
I think
in.
that makes sense because when you were rattling off of those wide receivers, you were scaring me. So
yeah.
that doesn't bode well for me, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. We'll see how many goes. Looks like it's not a ton went. Definitely more running backs. So I think that played to your favor. So after me, second quarterback off the board, and Patrick Mahomes, Zeke Elliott, Keenan Allen, David Montgomery, George Kittle, Justin Herbert, Cam Akers, at the turn, Terry McLaurin and James Conner. Coming back, Deontay Johnson, Antonio Gibson, T. Higgins, Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall, first rookie off the board here, Darren Waller, and DK Metcalf. So a lot of running backs go. Definitely something that I thought was a possibility. Now, looking at the running backs available, I've got Dobbins, Etienne, Elijah Mitchell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, decent options. And then, looking at receivers, Amari Cooper, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy. I think the receiver position's a little more appealing. Now, I don't have much help when I look at the teams behind me because you have no receivers. Team 3 has no running backs, and Team 2 is well balanced with one tight end and one of each. So, don't exactly know what's going to happen there, but I think I like the top end of the receivers more. DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, Amari Cooper, all great. Jerry Jeudy, good as well. I don't really want to, double too much down on Denver, especially this early when I have the flexibility. So if I go receiver, I think it's going to be Amari Cooper. I love, what Waddle did last year, but with Tyreek there, I think Cooper is in line to really have a good year. The targets are going to be there. A lot of people have discounted him as well because they traded him, but I think that was purely a cap situation thing. I think he's still got a lot in the tank. So Cooper would be the receiver option. If I'm looking at running back, you got Dobbins, Etienne, Mitchell. All three of them are solid. Clyde's even there, Miles. So there's some decent options that if they fall, I wouldn't mind taking. But I also, wouldn't mind just going with another receiver, or you still got Hawkinson, Goddard, some decent tight ends available. So going to keep the flexibility here and going to go with Amari Cooper. Anything you're hoping for here as you see a couple picks ahead of you?
Yeah, I'm probably going to go wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy is the one I got my eyes on. I'd be okay with Waddle as well. I don't know if I'd do both of them, but I'd want one of them. So we'll see if I'm sure one will get back to me because I can't see Team 3 taking a wide receiver. But yeah, we'll see.
So as I lock in Amari, we've got Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins. So your receiver wish worked out there.
Yeah, so it is tough. Historically, we've both liked DJ Moore a lot. Could be in line for a fine year. I'm not sure the upside's there unless like Baker goes there and turns his career around. Maybe. But, the longer that drags on, the less rapport they're going to have. It's going to take time to build that rapport.
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle, like you, seems like a great play and might still be a great play, but the, Hill arriving is worrisome. What's Tua going to be? Who knows? So we'll see. Jerry Jeudy is a smash for me. With Russell Wilson coming there, it seems like a prime breakout year for him. Him and Sutton, I think, are going to have great years. In fact, I could grab Waddle, another tight end wide receiver, and see if Sutton comes back to me. Again, we don't know where his ADP is. Oh, he's right there. He's not that far.
Yeah, he's not too far down, so it's interesting. He's fairly high up there.
Yeah, definitely not a play for me. Probably back into the round, but
yeah.
I think we're going to lock in Jerry Jeudy first. Just he seems the easiest as far as like safety and potential breakout. I do have another wide receiver in mind. I do keep flashing back to the tight end position and thinking Hawkinson's there.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot here at the end of the fourth, beginning of the fifth.
Yeah, Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, Dallas Goedert's there, Dawson Knox, Ertz, Freiermuth. I'm looking and I'm thinking, Cole Kmet's a good guy to gamble on at the end of the draft this year. Albert O, but I just drafted Jeudy. I'm not sure I'd really want to do that. Somebody I don't know if I've heard people really talking about is Mo Alley Cox, who people tend to like, and Matt Ryan loves his tight end. So
yeah, he does.
He seems like another late option that could work out.
Did they sign anyone? I know they drafted another actually really big tight end as well, but
they did. I don't think they signed anyone else. If they did, I'm scrolling through here. Yeah, they got the Jelani Woods. which it's just he's going to take time. Tight ends always take time. I'm not seeing
unless
anyone else on
unless
the
you're Kyle
ADP list.
Pitts.
Yes, unless you're Kyle Pitts. Yes. Yeah, so I'm not seeing anyone else. So, like, do I roll the dice on Komet? Do I lock in Hawkinson now? Bleh. It's tough. I think I'll probably roll the dice if the Lions didn't draft the wide receiver. Who'd they draft? Well,
The Lions drafted. I'm not Amon St. Brown. Jameson Williams,
Jameson Williams. Yeah,
wide
yeah. If
receiver.
they did not draft him, I'd probably be locking in Hawkinson, but they did, and that's going to cut that pie up a little bit. So I think I'm going to stick with my wide receiver choice, which is Michael Pittman. I think he is like one of the only options in Indy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super worried about having him and Jonathan Taylor. I think he represents safety and potential breakout upside since he's got the best quarterback he's ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And someone that, was just recently, everyone loved Calvin Ridley, before everything what happened with Matt Ryan. So I think Matt Ryan can still support an elite guy. So I'm going to lock him in. Waddle goes right after me, and Hawkinson goes right after that. So if you were considering grabbing a tight end, Hawkinson is now gone. The pool is shrinking, but you were on the clock, my friend.
Yeah, and I was considering Hawkinson because I thought the guy that I wanted was going to go, and he didn't. So Waddle, obviously, if I was looking wide receiver, was an option. Hawkinson. I was also considering Joe Burrow, but there's still a couple guys I think that I'd have to take over him. But Joe Burrow, I think if you want to go quarterback early, I think you could do much worse, especially here in the fifth round. You've already got a couple of those, ones or positions. But you look through the quarterback position, you still got Russell Wilson, Tom Brady down there, Stafford, Deshaun Watson. You got a lot of options, and it's a one QB league. So it definitely is. There's a lot available there. So obviously our boy DJ Moore is still there, but I'm going to go with Travis Etienne. Coming off the injury, the definition I think here of a post-hype sleeper. Still coming. It's not like he's got to get used to the quarterback because they played together for 3 years, I believe, at least 2, maybe 3 years in college. And I do think he's gonna look really good here, especially inserting him as my third running back, having 2 receivers already. You want to get that running back position, but you want to have the stability of wide receivers, and really like the way the team is built there. So, any thoughts on ETN here before I lock him in?
Yeah, I think he's a pretty solid pick. I don't know. I guess I'd pull the trigger. I haven't really given him a lot of thought as to whether I'd pull the trigger on him or not. Yeah, I think I would, especially here in the 5th round. I think it's pretty solid. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and it depends on your team makeup, right? You already had 3 running backs. It wouldn't make sense for you. But I thought there was a decent chance that Team 3 would, but they still have gone 0 RB through 5 rounds. Yeah. So we'll lock in Travis Etienne as my third running back. And next up, we've got DJ Moore, Elijah Mitchell, Joe Burrow, Cortland Sutton, Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, Kyler Murray. At the turn, A.J. Dillon and Mike Williams. Allen Robinson, Marquise Brown, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Hopkins, Dalton Schultz, Damian Harris, and Treylon Burks.
I'm liking this. Here. You're doing all the reading of the names, and I pretty much have nothing to say. That. I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, so we've got some options still available here. Quarterback, you've still got Hurts, Prescott, Wilson, Brady, Rodgers, Stafford, Watson. So still quite a few, even though we've had 6 go off the board. So obviously with computers and potentially in your league, there may be some teams taking 2 quarterbacks, but there's 6 quarterbacks gone. Only 6 teams don't have a quarterback. I just rattled off 6 names, 7 names, 8 names there that are definitely draftable. So I am comfortable waiting. I think there is those 6 that went and another 7 that I'd be really comfortable with. And then you got your Trey Lance, Derek Carr, upside guys, Cousins, it's decent, Matt Ryan, a little further down, Tannehill. They're your kind of fallback later options. So I think quarterback is definitely, this year again, looks to be a position that I want to wait on. The tight end position is kind of the other one we'll look to as we're getting here closer to the mid rounds. You want to look at the kind of onesie positions. And we still got Goddard. We got Dawson Knox. It starts to fall off a bit. You got Zach Ertz, Pat Fryermuth, Gesicki, Hunter Henry. Falls off a decent bit there. Looking behind me, it's only you. And then Goddard and Knox are both options that I don't mind. So I, at this point, just from a strategic standpoint, would not take them. But they both would be in consideration here, especially Goddard. But I really don't mind either of them. So I will hold off on that, and we'll just go back to the running back receiver one more time, and then potentially consider taking a tight end in the next round. Running back position, we got Miles Sanders, the rookie Kenneth Walker out of Seattle, Kareem Hunt still available, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, Chase Edmonds. Falls off a bit there, I guess. James Cook possibly in Buffalo, but it really just Sanders and Hunt that are interesting, I think, here. But not even that interesting. Receiver, we've got Ross St. Brown, Adam Thielen, Brandon Cooks, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Garrett Wilson. A lot of good options here. Devonta Smith a little further down that I mentioned as well. So there's still a lot of options I like. The ones that stick out, I think, the most to me, Brandon Cooks, one of the biggest unsung heroes in fantasy football, I think. He always just gets looked over time and time again, and he has just been a very, very consistent player. Last year, wide receiver 20 in both standard and PPR, and outside of that, he's been in the top 16 in PPR 5 out of 7 seasons going into last year, and was a wide receiver 2 again. So he's at the very least a top 20 receiver in 6 of his 8 seasons with 4 different teams. It's it's just you love to see it. He's a very consistent player. You got him, Drake London. It's a good option, but Devonta Smith, who I preached earlier, and he's another guy that I absolutely love. I think he is due for a big season as well. So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is here. Cooks is definitely appealing as a safer option, but having Evans and Cooper, I'm going to go with the upside. And I'm going to lock in Devonta Smith. I think he is really going to step into his own this year. And there's still a few other receivers here that I wouldn't mind getting a Cooks or a London or a Mooney in the next round. If you decide to, let's say, go back-to-back tight end just to spite me. I have some other wide receivers here that I don't mind. So we're going to lock in Devonta Smith. After him goes Miles Sanders and Drake London.
I should spite you.
I sure hope you do.
This whole time I was like, oh, I want Cooks and Devonta Smith. They're going to be my 2 picks on this turn.
There it is.
The 2 people you talk about. And I was like, oh, man. Okay.
You're probably hoping I just curveball and say, and I'm going to go tight end. Right?
Yeah. I was hoping you had something else and there'd be a third person. I'm like, oh, you know what? Drake London. I'll take a rookie. I got some vets on this team.
Well, I'm glad I went Smith because I did want them both as well. And I thought maybe Steve's not all in on Smith. Maybe I take Cooks here and see if he gets to me. But I did, obviously, since I took him, wanted Smith a little bit more. So glad I took him here. I'd rather have him than Cooks with this team makeup. And it sounds like that's going to be the case. And it sounds like he's one of your guys here.
Yeah. So now I'm stuck between Cooks is a guy. Just go lock him in right now. Like you said it all. And,
he is a guy, especially going 3 running backs in a row. I mean, you got upside guys in Pittman and Judy, but Cooks is just, you can plug him in as a wide receiver 2 and you're set. So you just need one of those 2 guys to hit and you're in good shape.
Yeah, he counters those 2 well.
Yeah.
Now, the other part of me wants to take another shot either on Amon-Ra St. Brown or Darnell Mooney. I don't think I would do anyone else. I mean, Juju maybe, but probably not. Not yet. But I'd really like to take a shot on one of those 2. But I think tight end would probably be where I gotta go, and I gotta go Dallas Goedert. The more I sit here and think about Kmet, I'm just so uncomfortable doing it. The Bears are just in disarray. And while it makes sense, like there's 2 passing options. It's Mooney and Kmet. Like it's just, I don't know. If the touchdowns don't come, then it's not that great. And there's just so few other options. I mean, Gronk's falling. I'm assuming he's coming back.
You got to think. But yeah, I guess you don't know.
and he would be a good option there. Alberto is a nice breakout candidate. Irv Smith, maybe. I mean, we've been waiting for that for a while now.
Yeah.
And Joku, somebody else got to catch the ball in Cleveland, but we've been waiting for his breakout and it hasn't come either. Logan Thomas, maybe. Interesting. I'm scrolling. Cameron Brate, if Gronk doesn't come back.
Yeah.
Troutman's still there if you're still interested in that, shot. So I think I'm just going to lock it in now. I'm going to go Goddard and just get tight end out of the way. And then on the next turn, maybe draft a running back and a wide receiver. Maybe we'll start looking at quarterback. I don't know. We'll see who goes. So I'm going to lock him in. Russell Wilson goes right there at the 7-2, and then I'll lock it right afterwards.
Yeah, so here is the decision. Do I lock in Knox? I think is probably the end of a tier. I mean, Ertz and Freiermuth are fine. I think Knox slightly ahead of them, but I don't think it's that big of a drop off. And considering that there are 3 teams besides myself now that don't have a tight end, I think I can take that gamble. If I do and fail, you're looking at your probably a Gesicki, taking a shot on Gronk or Komet, Alberto, no Fant. So that at that point you just punt completely. Quarterback, you have just you, myself, you, and 3 other teams that don't have a quarterback, but we still have Hurts, Prescott, Brady, Rodgers, Stafford, Watson. I'd be okay with any of them. Obviously, with Watson, maybe you take another quarterback as well, like a safety, just because you think there's a chance that he doesn't play. There's still chances of suspension. There's still a lot more people coming out about it, and obviously this is fantasy football. Everything that he's alleged of is horrible, and if he did do it, obviously there's going to be repercussions. But since there has not been anything officially, charged against him, he is still available here in fantasy football, and he's still an option here at the quarterback position, which, as we said, just kind of gives it the depth there that you have with Hurts, with Prescott, Brady, Rodgers, Stafford. So I don't think quarterback is an option here. I think it's once again going back to the running back receiver. Well, we've got 3 of each, so we got a pretty good balance. Looking here, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Adam Thielen. Who it's interesting that he's taken a pretty big fall. I mean, last year he was still mid wide receiver 2, wide receiver 28 here in PPR. But then 3 of the 4 years before that, he was a wide receiver 1. 17 he was 9, 18 he was 7, 19 he was 63. Only played 10 games, but then 10 2 years ago, and then 28 last year. So it's interesting that he's still available. He seems like a pretty safe option. Not something I'm, thrilled with here. Like you said, Mooney's an option. At running back, Kareem Hunt and Kenneth Walker are interesting. I think Kareem Hunt maybe makes more sense for the team with Travis Etienne and Jonte Williams, some younger guys there. But I don't know that I necessarily need it. And as we said here, it's 2 running back, 2 receiver, 2 flex. One of them can be a receiver or one of them can be a running back. So, from a team building standpoint, I've got, the flexibility there, but you can start more receivers than running backs. You can't start that many running backs. So it's tough. I'm probably looking here, if I'm looking running back, Walker or Hunt. And if I'm looking receiver, probably Thielen or Mooney. But I don't love either of them. Another guy that's a little further down, I don't know if he gets back to me, but I do think has really big upside this year is Rashad Bateman. It looks like he's probably not projected to get back, but he's someone that I think I'd much rather take a shot on him or Elijah Moore, let's say, over Mooney or Thielen here. I think, while it's a heavy pass rushing offense, it's still, he looks to be the guy outside of Mark Andrews. So it's tough. And the thing with it is running backs are scarce here. So with younger running backs, I think I pass on Walker, especially not a great offense, and take a shot here on Kareem Hunt as just getting that depth, getting another solid running back so that I don't have to grasp for straws later. and then just hoping that one of those receivers I talked about gets back to me there. So we're going to lock in Kareem Hunt. After him, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Kenneth Walker, Adam Thielen, Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, so some quarterbacks going. Elijah Moore, Juju Smith-Schuster, Darnell Mooney, Dak Prescott, Garrett Wilson, Cordell Patterson, Tony Pollard. There goes Rashad Bateman, so gamble didn't pay off there. Brandon Ayuk, Chris Olave, and Devin Singletary. So most of the receivers that I was interested in did go there as well. But the running back position does look scarce. I would have been looking at Edmonds, James Cook, Penny. Not so hot. So I'm happy to have 4 running backs with that available. And receivers, we're looking at Hunter Renfrow, Gabe Davis, Robert Woods, Chase Claypool. But the interesting thing is all 3 of those tight ends are still available. Given that all 3 of my teams behind me have tight end, don't need to make that decision here. But it's interesting to note that I can wait here at least one more round. I don't think all 3 of you will take a second tight end. But I don't know that I'd be able to wait another round just because it does seem like some of these teams are going to start looking to maybe go a second tight end. Quarterback, we still have Rodgers, Stafford, and Watson, but it is just you and I left on the quarterback trail, and they probably will not be lasting too much longer with, I'm sure, some of these teams looking to take a second quarterback. Alas, I'd be looking here at likely a wide receiver, unless I want to go with a quarterback or tight end. So we're looking at Hunter Renfrow, Gabe Davis, Robert Woods, Chase Claypool, Christian Watson, Jameson Williams. Interesting options. Nothing that really is a game breaker. I mean, Hunter Renfrow, I guess, is solid, but I don't exactly know what the role is going to be there with Devontae Adams in tow. So here in the first draft of the year, may pivot a bit and look to see if I can go quarterback, actually, just to get that position locked in, as I do think some of them are going to start going, in this round and next round. Maybe you're looking at quarterback as well. And I'm going to make sure I rub it into you one more time and take our boy Matty Stafford here. Were you possibly looking to take him next?
I was not, and I'm not surprised at all that you're taking him. So I think that works out.
Yeah, so we'll lock in Stafford here just to get that quarterback out of the way. And we're going to get in Chase Edmonds and Chase Claypool go back to back after that.
Yeah, so I was sitting here thinking, like, I'm not interested in Watson because of the looming suspension, and I kind of figured you wouldn't be either. It's hard to be interested in Rodgers when, like,
weapons.
I'm not even sure I can name all his weapons. So, I figured you took the same approach. So then I settled myself on Trey Lance as that upside, shoot for the moon kind of play. And I didn't know how you felt about that. And I kind of figured you would default to Stafford before rolling the dice like that. Now,
do you think he gets back to you, or do you think
that is a great question?
Yeah.
That is a great question. Sleeper likes to draft their two QBs. Not every team, but some teams will. I got 2 in front of me. So, I could roll the dice and potentially get him. I definitely want QBs going, I would think. This Mahomes, Josh Allen teams over here, teams 5 and 6 look primed to take one. Although one doesn't have a tight end, so they really should be grabbing a tight end, I would think. So I think I will roll the dice just to see. And like, I know in the back of my mind in a real draft, he would get back to me. How, some of the quarterbacks here would still be available if it was a real draft. So I'm going to pivot here. I really wanted Chase Edmonds. I thought he made sense for my team because I could have, I'm sitting with elite running backs. I could afford to roll the dice on him. But then I'm looking at, James Cook, who I think is a solid PPR option. They clearly wanted a pass catcher. Penny could be the guy, but I believe he's already banged up, which is just typical Penny. And then Melvin Gordon, who I think is going to have a pretty similar role to next year. So I think I'm going to grab Melvin Gordon as a more of a backup running back. I really wish I grabbed something with high upside. I really don't see it here.
Yeah, there's not a ton.
Dameon Pierce, maybe. Ramondre Stevenson if he takes the role. Daryl Henderson if Akers isn't right. Gainwell. I do like Gainwell this year, but it's too early for that. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Melvin Gordon as a backup running back, and to grab somebody because it's been a long time, and then pivot back to wide receiver. And I'm going to take another shot on a wide receiver here. I'm not interested in Renfro. I'm just not. Robert Woods, no, not now anyway. I don't think I want Watson or Jameson. Christian Watson's kind of interesting. You know what? Yeah, I think I am going to do Christian Watson. I'll take my shot on a Green Bay play. The guy I was thinking about was Kadarius Toney, just because he had some flashes last year, just being crazy. But the team was also interested in getting rid of him, so I don't know. So I'll take an upside shot with Christian Watson. We do need to move along quite quickly here, Will.
Yeah.
So we can get moving. We only got 5 picks left. Gabe Davis,
so we can work through it quick.
Yeah, Gabe Davis goes, Renfro goes. You are on the clock.
Let me refresh it here because it does not show me your picks just yet. All right, there we go. Yeah, so Melvin, Christian Watson, Gabe Davis, Hunter Renfro. So at this point, it comes down to, do I go at the tight end? Do I gamble? There's 3 guys I find in a tier here. And there are 3 teams that don't have a tight end, as well as a few that may not take one. So I am going to gamble here, and I'm going to go with another young running back in James Cook. Definitely was taken early, right? Running backs are king, and they hold their weight in gold if they hit. So definitely a good trade bait available as well, but it just gives me that flexibility having that 5th running back. Do need to look at another receiver here at some point, but that gives me the option of going with another receiver or a tight end here in the next round. So we're going to lock in James Cook. After him, Dawson Knox goes, Aaron Jones, Robert Woods, Gesicki, and Freiermuth. So the tight ends start to go. Zach Ertz, Michael Carter, James Robinson, Trey Lance, Rashad Penny, Deshaun Watson, Derek Carr. So quarterbacks flying too.
Ridiculous number of quarterbacks.
Yeah. Mike Gallup, Ramondre Stevenson, and Ronald Jones. So the quarterback gamble for you did not pay off, as your boy Trey Lance goes there. Tight end gamble for me did also not pay off. However, I don't really love any of the guys that are here. So even if one goes, not going to go with that position. So I'm going to look here to the wide receiver position. We've got Kadarius Toney, Tyler Boyd. Sky Moore is an interesting upside option that I like. He's a rookie, so we'll see how he does. And it looks like he picks up a hamstring injury, so maybe I should pick him since we are currently brethren in the hamstring injury realm. You got Alan Lazard, Russell Gage, Kenny Galladay, George Pickens. A lot of options, but I think the highest upside there is Sky Moore. I should be able to get some, just decent floor, but low ceiling options a little bit later. So we're going to lock in Sky Moore. After him, Isaiah Spiller and Kadarius Toney to you.
Oh, okay. So the top 3 quarterbacks are the ones I'm looking at. Kirk Cousins. He's your safe pick here.
Yeah.
And then Tua and Fields are your breakout candidates. Right now, I'm buying more into Tua given the weapons around him and overall the direction of the franchise and the fact that they added, an absolute elite wide receiver.
Yeah.
Drafted an elite guy last year. The Bears refused to do that. So Tua will be the guy that I'll hitch my wagon to on that front. Running backs, not in love with the options. This is more of a reasonable time for Kenneth Walker. So I'm kind of looking his way. Wide receivers, Lazard would be nice if I didn't have Watson.
Yeah.
The other ones, Tyler Boyd's a kind of a safe pick. It might fit me kind of well. But since when did I ever do that? I drafted my responsible pick was, man. Yeah, I did a responsible thing with Cooks. I don't need to do it again. So yeah. I'm going to lock in Gainwell, take an upside guy that maybe has some PPR value this year. That'll be my kind of upside running back there. Gronk goes off right after me. Hunter Henry, you are back on the clock.
All right, couple of tight ends go here. So The question is Cole Kmet, Albert O, Noah Fant, and Joku. Still some decent options. Nothing that I'm in love with. So I think at this point I probably am going to punt the position a little more. So we're looking at wide receivers or running backs. There's not a ton of running backs. Damian Pierce is interesting, but I need to lock up that receiver position. And there's still a couple of interesting guys. Tyler Boyd, Christian Kirk, Russell Gage wouldn't be bad, but I've already got Mike Evans, so don't really want to double down that position. And then George Pickens. Some interesting options. I'm gonna lock in. Let's see here. I'm gonna go with Christian Kirk. He got paid. He is, I think, gonna have at least a decent season. And this stage of the draft, I just need some depth at receiver, and he's not a bad fifth guy to have. Probably slots more as a fourth guy, with Sky Moore as a rookie. So we'll lock in Christian Kirk. After him, Tyler Boyd, Allen Lazard, Kirk Cousins, Russell Gage, Damian Pierce, Alexander Madison, Cole Kmet, Jarvis Landry, Kenny Galladay, George Pickens, Albert O, Jacoby Myers, Irv Smith, Noah Fant, Rondale Moore, and Naeem Hines. So once again, a lot of the tight ends go. So really just punting at this point. There's some late options I wouldn't mind taking a shot on, but at this point, I'm really going to be working the waivers, likely to be getting a tight end. So we're back to the wide receiver position and the running back position. Darrell Henderson is interesting. He was the two there before. And it's really him and Cam Akers. A lot of people are pretty, happy with Akers, but we'll see. I think Henderson is not a bad pick here, as I think he is kind of the, 1A, maybe arguably 2. Rashad White isn't bad there in Tampa, but a couple of decent options. Receiver, Tim Patrick is an interesting, just kind of safer option that makes sense for my team as well. So those are the two I'm thinking about here. There is a team that only has 2 running backs behind us. That's wild. And another team that only has 3. So I think I'm going to go with the running back upside here. Hope that Patrick gets back. If he doesn't, there'll be another safe option. Maybe I don't like as much as Patrick, but something. But I like, Darrell Henderson as just another running back to add to the core here. Just get some depth. So after him, Justin Fields, Rashad White, to you.
I find this a difficult spot. Hey, I forgot DJ Chark's in Detroit. Quick call out. This Atlanta dude that I never pronounce his name right, Tyler Algier. Yeah, Algier, whatever.
Algier.
Potential starting running back here.
Possible, yeah. I mean, you got him. You got what?
Cordarrelle Patterson. That's
Patterson, and then what's his name? Damian Williams.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So potential starter. Raheem Mostert's pretty interesting here. And then at the wide receiver position, MVS is kind of the guy I've been wanting to take a shot on in Kansas City because he is so late. I also like Devontae Parker in New England because I don't think there's any elite wide receivers in New England. So I feel like he could fill that hole. So I think I'm going to go ahead and lock in Parker now because he's the one I like the most.
Mm-hmm.
I think MVS is probably just a stupid gamble. Follow the money makes sense with him, but I don't know. He drops too many balls. So I think I am going to grab Algier or whatever. And Atlanta is just a shot at a starting running back here in the 13th round. I got 1 pick left. Will, you got 2. Trevor Lawrence and John Dotson go off the board. You're up.
Yeah, easy one for me. Punting the tight end position, as I mentioned, and Tim Patrick was a guy that I was interested in. So going to take him as just a nice, safe option here. A couple other names to call out here. OBJ still there, hasn't signed with the team yet, but still a good talent, and at this stage of the draft is not a bad guy to pick up and roster. Yeah, as you mentioned, Chark's still there. Some rookies available. Jameson Crowder, not a bad option as well. As just kind of that Beasley replacement there in Buffalo. But for me, I'm going to take Patrick on more of a high octane offense, hopefully. So lock it in, Tim Patrick. After him, Tyler Higbee, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, DJ Chark, Jameis Winston, Marlon Mack, JD McKissick, Mecole Hardman, David Njoku, Raheem Mostert, the turn, Matt Ryan, Khalil Herbert, Odell Beckham, Chuba Hubbard, Gus Edwards, Hayden Hurst, and Mac Jones. Back to me, needing a tight end, and the landscape is bleak. We've got Robert Tonyan, Evan Ingram, Logan Thomas, Gerald Everett, Trey McBride at rookie in Arizona, Taysom Hill, who I do hear is going to play primarily tight end this year and is only listed as a tight end. So interesting to hear that, and not a bad, take a shot on to see how he does to start the year. Austin Hooper in Tennessee, not a bad option. Johnny Woods, as you mentioned, Roy Cox, another big tight end. Cameron Brate, CJ Uzama. There's not a ton that I love here. You called out Mo Alley Cox. I think he's an interesting option to take a shot on. It would be him or maybe an Evan Ingram there in Jacksonville. I've already got 2 Jaguars. Don't want to hitch my wagon too much to them. So it comes down to Taysom Hill or Mo Alley Cox. Hill maybe is used more as a gadget. We'll see. And they did get a few extra receivers there. So I'm going to take a shot on Mo Alley Cox, see if he ends up being one of the favorites there for new quarterback Matt Ryan. If not, pretty easy to move on from. But lock him in as my tight end. After him, Chris Carson and Jamal Williams.
Yeah, so for me, running backs, Zamir White's kind of interesting. Darrell Williams, maybe. Not a ton of great options there. Wide receiver, David Bell, Alec Pierce, Van Jefferson, Jalen Tolbert, Robbie Anderson, Jamison Crowder. Not a ton of great options there. KJ Osborne, maybe. So what I'm actually going to do is draft a second quarterback. And that guy's going to be Zach Wilson. Not a ton of, I'm not confident in Tua. I'm just not super confident in him either. He's got a great situation, but it doesn't mean he's going to take a step up. So I'll take another shot on a guy that could step up, another team that has put weapons around their young quarterback. Don't think it's a bad shot to take, and, we can cut him if need be. So we'll put it there. That finishes up the draft. So my team here from the 101, I have 2 quarterbacks, Tua and Zach Wilson. Running backs, Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon, Kenneth Gainwell, Tyler Algier, and then wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy, Michael Pittman, Brandon Cooks, Christian Watson, Devontae Parker, and then Goddard at tight end. What is your team looking like there, Will?
All right. So we are looking at Matt Stafford at quarterback, Austin Eckler, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, Kareem Hunt, James Cook, and Darrell Henderson. At the running back position, Mike Evans, Mari Cooper, Devontae Smith, Sky Moore, Christian Kirk at Tim Patrick at wide receiver, and Mo Alley Cox, tight end at Indianapolis as my tight end.
So what do you think about your team? First draft of the year.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, I love the RB depth, and Stafford is a quarterback I'm happy to walk away with. Like the top end of my receivers, but definitely wish I would have went a little bit more receiver heavy a little bit earlier, let's say, just to get some more depth there. Sky Moore, Kirk, and Tim Patrick don't inspire a ton of confidence, but hopefully I don't really need them as they're likely more depth plays. But yeah, overall, not too mad at the team here early on.
I think I like my team a fair bit. Very strong at running back. I'm comfortable with the wide receivers I ended up with. Jeudy, Pittman, Cooks sounds good to me. Goddard should be good enough to get me by. It's really the quarterback position that has me worried. But I think I'm also in a position where if it doesn't work out, I can trade a Leonard Fournette or Aaron Jones for a another, a Kareem Hunt and a Matt Stafford, from your team, or, something like that. Downgrade wide receiver, upgrade quarterback, something like that. Overall, I'm pretty happy, especially given the gambles I took and being in the 101 spot.
Yeah, first official mock here of the mock season as we enter summer in June.
Yeah, we're getting ready for plenty more, I'm sure. So tune in next week for another mock draft as we continue to iron out our strategies for the year. Until then, folks, trust your board.